Welcome to the Empowerment Hour podcast, your digital classroom where individuals across all ages, backgrounds, and career levels tune in to get their weekly dose of inspiration and motivation. It's where passion and purpose intersect. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah, and your very own personal success coach. My goal is to help you discover your purpose and take inspired action so that you create a life where you feel fulfilled and empowered. So if you're ready to start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey guys, it's your girl, Nancy Ruffin. We are back another week. This is, I think, episode 78, guys. Wow. We're creeping up on that 100th episode. So for those of you that have been rocking with me from the very beginning, just thank you. A heartfelt thank you for sticking out with me and through all the iterations that this podcast has gone through in the, last couple of years. And it really hasn't been, it's been only 1 year that I've really been kind of going hard with the podcast and being consistent. And so for those of you who have been with me through all of that craziness, thank you so much. If this is your first time joining me, welcome. I appreciate you. I am so glad that you are here. I hope that you love this episode and that you become a loyal listener. So if you like it, make sure that you head on over to iTunes and click the subscribe button so that you don't miss any episodes. You'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. Also, if you love it, leave a comment, give us a rating, post about it in your social media, share with your friends, let them know how amazing and phenomenal I am. You know, it's the only way that I am going to be able to grow. And, that's my goal. I want to make the Empowerment Hour the #1 personal development podcast. So I want to be the podcast of choice. So when people are talking about personal development and self-help, I want to be their go-to person. So yeah, I guess with that, we're going to kind of get into tonight's episode. There's a couple of things happening. Mother's Day, guys, is right around the corner. I hope that you have purchased, those gifts for mom. Don't wait for the last minute. Make sure you order their flowers. Make sure that you go and you buy a card beforehand. Don't wait till the last minute, because if you wait till the last minute, you're going to get all of the sucky cards and you might even be asked out. You might not even be able to get a card. I know for me, there have been times where I've left the card shopping to the last minute, and I always find a card from my mom, but the one that I always struggle with is my grandma, because she only speaks Spanish and reads Spanish, and finding those Spanish language cards last minute are really, really hard. So there have been times where I've purchased like a abuelo card and manually changed the O to an A so it could read abuela, like just crazy things. So don't wait for the last minute to get those really important things, especially for, your moms and your grandmas and all of the special moms in your life. This mothering thing is not easy. It is hard. Despite the fact that it's, of course, extremely rewarding, it still doesn't take away from how hard it is at times. And so for any of my listeners out there who are moms, I hope that you get treated the way that you're supposed to be treated on Mother's Day. I hope that you are able to relax and just enjoy your day. So, and dads, if you're listening, make sure to plan something nice for the moms in your life. Well, anyway, so this week, joining me, I had the opportunity to interview one of my friends. She is a super talented writer. She is one of the members of the El Grito de Poetas. And she's the only female in a poetry group of men. And every time I would see them or hear them and I would see her, I always kind of looked to her as the Lauryn Hill of the group, the same way, Lauryn Hill was in the Fugees. They were a phenomenal hip hop group. Lauryn Hill, of course, is legendary. So that was what True represented for me. And, she was always like someone I really wanted to meet, especially when I was coming up on the poetry scene, because she was just like so accomplished. I guess I was a fan, and so when we finally became friends and were able to connect on a real level, aside from poetry and aside from, the creative part of the things that we do, she's just a phenomenal woman, a phenomenal mom, and now she's a phenomenal playwright. She wrote this play in defense of glitter and rainbows. She put it on for the first time last Mother's Day. She sold out that show, and so she's back with a second run happening this Mother's Day weekend. And I was really, really lucky to have been invited to a private screening of the show yesterday, and I was blown away. It was just phenomenal. The story in it of itself just lends itself to so many of the things that I think mothers and daughters go through. That journey, the mother-daughter relationship. It's a dynamic one, right? And it's ever changing. And I think that there always comes a point in that relationship where, particularly when the daughters are coming into their own and they're finally growing into their own adulthood and their own womanhood, and they may not know how to deal with some of that the mother-daughter relationship can become rocky. And as much as moms try to advise, their daughters and try to protect them and keep them from some of the heartache that we know exists, and we try to protect them from some of the things that we may have experienced ourselves, the daughters are gonna pave their own way, and they're ultimately going to do what they want to do, despite, what the mom is trying to teach. And I think that this play really lends itself to that. We see the relationship of mother-daughter through different generations, and how when you don't break certain patterns and certain cycles, you tend to repeat them, and they tend to be passed down, to the next generation. And so True did a really great job at capturing that, at also capturing the Latino culture, because she is Puerto Riqueña, and so we see a lot of spirituality infused in it. It was really, really good. So I have her joining me this week. We're going to be talking about the play. We're going to be talking about what inspired her to write it, how she went about writing it. It was crazy. So I kind of want to preface the interview with this caveat. We had a little technical difficulties throughout the discussion, and I think it's just because of cell phone technology and, dead spots. And so sometimes you kind of hear the conversation go in and out. But I did my best with editing, hoping that we didn't lose any of the important dialogue that we had. So sit tight, and here we go. Welcome my guest this week, Miss Vivian True Rodriguez. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. This week, I'm super excited because my special guest is a friend of mine. And not only is she a friend, but she is a phenomenal poet, writer, and recently she has added a new title to the list of things that she does, and she is now a playwright. And I wanted to have her on because she is putting up the second, I guess, run of her play In Defense of Glitter and Rainbows. So with no further ado, please help me in welcoming my friend Vivian True Rodriguez.
Hey, girl.
Hey, honey. First of all, thank you for taking the time out to be on the podcast. I know how busy you are, especially these days, the week kind
Oh my
of
gosh.
leading up to opening night for you. I know you have to be going crazy.
I'm trying not to. I want to be better this year. So I'm trying not to.
Okay.
But I'm really happy to be here with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, of course. I mean, this is what we're supposed to do, right? If we have a platform, we have to be able to share that with the people who have been a part of our journey. And we've known each other for years. I don't want to go into too much of me saying who you are, because I want you in your own words to kind of give my listeners like a brief intro of who you are, your background, and some of the amazing things that you've accomplished so far in your life.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, number one, I'm a mom, right?
Yeah.
To a beautiful 14-year-old girl. So that's actually my biggest and greatest accomplishment for me. But I've been a performing poet in the New York City, Nuyorican poetry scene for going on 19 years now. Started out in Brooklyn, and then in 2006 joined the All Latino Poetry Collective of El Grito de Poetas.
Yes.
And that was like an amazing run. I was the only woman in a group of heavy-hitting male poets. And I changed the narrative in poetry and what a woman as a poet, like and sounded like. And being unapologetic the whole entire way. It was very important for me for Latinas that got to see me on stage to see themselves. Absolutely. And to not then not worry about what it's supposed to be. Like just make it what it is for you. And through that journey, I published 2 books, Where Do I Begin and Climbing Ivy, which was a collection of poems and short stories. And also started a nonprofit called the Climbing Ivy Project, which focuses on mentoring girls here in the States, basically Black and brown girls here in the States, in the hopes of having them actually enjoy a lot of time overseas so that they could understand what it is to be a citizen of the world, and that the decisions that they make in life actually do have a ripple effect all around the world. And then, right?
That's right.
I'm Nancy's friend, right? So you know how this is gonna go. So after that, I decided one day. Actually, I didn't even decide. I used to do posts like on Facebook about people trying to like steal my joy throughout the day. I think that especially. Well, not especially humans in general, right? Whether you have to go out for work or deal with people in general, yes. Like unless you're like very fortunate and get to like be in a bubble, right. You come across people that try to steal your joy. And so I started doing these posts about like in defense of glitter and rainbows, that I wasn't going to let anyone steal my joy on that day. And like one day in like, I'm into like all the life coaching and all that one-on-one coaching. I was doing a training and we were making some declarations, and I was sitting there and I'm like, shoot, right? Like everybody has all these declarations. I'm like, man, I've done so much that I want to do. I really don't know what I'm going to say. And I promise you that when it was my turn, it like fell out of my mouth. It was like, I'm going to write a play and it's going to be called In Defense of Glitter and Rainbows, and we're going to feature the music of Billie Holiday and La Lupe.
Oh my God.
I promise. And I got up from my chair and I went, I picked up my phone, I called the Nuyorican, and I booked the day. I booked that Mother's Day 2015.
And this was before you had even written the play?
No, I had no script.
Wow.
I had no script, and not only did I have no script, but like I had like enrolled a choreographer. I had like
But you know what?
I had
I'm not even
people.
surprised, True, because this is how we get down. I'm the same way.
Yo,
I just say shit, I'm
listen,
gonna do shit, and I don't know how I'm gonna
yo,
do it. It just, I just like, I'm putting it
nah.
out.
Yeah, it's gonna get done, right? You know, I one thing that I will say, I've always trusted my network,
Mm-hmm.
especially the sisters in my network, because I'm clear that I can't do it by myself.
Right.
And so it's like, I'm fortunate because even with that, listen, that was December. It was February, right? The play was going up Mother's Day of that year. That's May. My homegirl, who was a choreographer, called me on in February and was like, hey, where's the script? Because I'm ready. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, girl, you know that like we need like people, like you have to cast. So I like literally sat down over the next week or two and started to write this play. And it was amazing. Like, and not like it's amazing because I wrote it. What was amazing for me was the first time we put it up. First of all, it like we sold out the New York. The line was going around the corner. Because I was so nervous. It was the first time I was going to see my words on stage without me being the one to perform.
Wow.
Which is like very nerve-wracking, right? Because as a poet, when you're up there, if the crowd isn't feeling it, you flip it, you change
Yes.
it, you do something.
Yes.
But with this, if they don't like it, it's done, right?
Yes.
Like, this is it. So, you know, and they did. But for me, what was like, what I realized that I had something was there was a moment where the director and I were in the back and we started to look, and the women were like literally holding hands, hugging each other, passing each other tissues, like comforting each other, and they didn't know each other.
Mm. You know, that's
And
when
I
you
was
know you have
like,
something special, when you're able
right,
to
I was,
connect people in that way. It's almost like music. You know how they say music is like the universal connector that anyone can kind of connect. So for your
yeah.
words to do that is powerful.
No, I was like, okay. And I was like, you know, I had experienced the loss of my grandmother, you know, maybe a year before that, you know, and it was just, I had a moment where I like felt like my grandmother, and I was just like, okay, mama, I hear you. I see what's going on. This is what I need to do. And so that was 2015. You know, I went back, I rewrote the play because I wanted to give a male voice. I had an all woman cast. And I realized, like, you know, it's difficult to speak about healing sisterhood and not include the men in the conversation. And I wanted to make sure I gave the men a voice that was like real and
Right.
honest and raw, but not the Tyler Perry kind of
Right.
male character,
Right.
right?
Right.
I didn't
Right.
want that. You know, I wanted a man that when you looked, it was like, oh man, my brother's like that.
Mm.
Oh man, my uncle is like that. You know, so we rewrote it. I got a new cast and a new director, and it has been. I have watched them take this play and make it their own in such a way where I sit back and I'm in awe of what they're able to do.
So, you know, I want you to talk a little bit about, you know, about the play, what it represents, and just give the listeners a little bit about what they can expect, you know, when they show up on May 11th or May 12th or May 13th, because I will tell you, I was fortunate enough to attend the preview screening that you had yesterday, and I was
Yeah.
completely blown away. I don't even know what I expected.
Oh wow.
But when it was not what I expected, and not in a bad or good way, but I really, I guess for me, I was under the assumption that it was only the story of, you know, a mother and a daughter and of, you know, women and sisters. And it was so much more than that. I think that you did a really great job incorporating, you know, the men into their story, because you're right, we can't talk about healing ourselves without having that male presence, because a lot of times the shit that we go through, right, is because of shit we've gone through with men.
All learning and all growth happens in relationship. You know, you can't like just work on yourself in a
Right.
bubble. Like that doesn't work, right? Because you're gonna have to leave, and then what?
Right.
So that's like, so the play in and of itself, yeah, it is a mother and daughter story, but it's a mother and daughter story throughout the generations. And it really is, the story focuses on the mom and her daughter Ivy, and mom realizing, like, there's a moment where mom realizes that everything her daughter is going through is exactly what she went through and her mother had went through before her. And she realizes that if she doesn't do something, her daughter, who's her world, is her only child, is going to start to suffer the same suffering that she's going through in the moment, you know. But in the midst of that, right, you know, mom is in a relationship that she isn't happy with, you know. So the conversation almost becomes like, how do I show my daughter that this isn't the way without her judging me, right? And then for the daughter, it's very similar. How do I get my mom to understand, right, without judging me? And I think that tends to be a big conversation between mothers and daughters, especially in the secrets. The whole play really is about these secrets, these things that moms don't tell their daughters because of whatever reason, right? And how that secret becomes bondage. Right. Because I can't give you what you need to know because I don't want you to know that I went through this and how you're going to look at me, you know? So there's definitely that. I think the other piece is also the understanding that our ancestors are always with us, right? And they're always watching over us. And, you know, they're here.
Why was it important for you to incorporate that in the play? I think that it was powerful, and I think that it's important because, I mean, I am too very spiritual, and I believe that my ancestors walk with me and they protect me, and, you know, and they make things happen. Like, they pave the way for me, even, you know, in the spiritual world. Why was it important for you to make sure that that was captured in the play?
Because it's real life for me. I feel, you know, I grew up, I'm Puerto Rican, right? From New York. My great grandmother was a spiritist. I grew up, you know, with the understanding. My father's a Pentecostal preacher, right? So I grew up in both ends of the spectrum, right? Whether it was Holy Spirit or like spirits of your ancestors. But I was always very clear that there's spirit. And that we don't do, well, we can, right? But it would be wise to do what we do with guidance.
Right, absolutely.
Right? And they get to acknowledge that. We rather get to acknowledge that. So I wanted to take this opportunity for people to see it, spirit, in a way that isn't sensationalized the way they do in like Hollywood or on TV, you know, that we really just have these guiding lights around us, just trying to make sure that we're okay. You know, and that's very important for me because it's my culture. And I really want, you know, as Latinos, we don't get to see ourselves on stage. Right. You know, unless it's like a Celia Cruz or it's like a big name, big thing, but we don't get to see ourselves on stage. Right. So I love seeing mommy going and prendiendo una vela, you know, lighting a candle because she's praying for her daughter.
Right.
You know,
and
little
so real.
things.
That is so real. When we're going
and
through
I want people to feel that. I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying that the lighting of the candle, like, we do that when we're going through those really difficult times, and like we don't know, like, we've prayed all we can pray, and it's like, well, let me just light this candle, like, you know, like it's gonna amplify the prayer.
Yeah, right, and it does.
Yes.
Right, because that's the faith, right, and it does. You know, so we actually like. I want that. I love that when people leave the play, they tell me they're like, True, I felt like I was in my aunt's living room.
Yes.
Or I felt like I was in my grandmother's house. Like, that means so much to me because we get to see ourselves on stage. Our daughters, our children, they get to see themselves and know that how we are, how we live is normal. And it's something that we can actually aspire to. You know, we don't have to look outside of ourselves for inspiration.
So, you know, there's a number of different characters in the play, and there's a lot of different themes that go on. You know, we see addiction, we see a husband who isn't always present, although he's there, he's not always physically present. We see a mother and a daughter who are both looking for love and affection. How difficult or easy was it for you to write these characters? I mean, and you did it so well because they are so relatable. I mean, I could relate to each and every one of them. I can see myself in them. I can see family members in there. Like, you just did a great job. So how was writing the characters for you?
It was great. My grandmother is so present in the script.
Mm,
And I feel like I really write from how, and then as far as like the wisdom and all of that, it was really like my mom and my grandmother.
mm,
So it's funny because writing the women was very, very easy, right?
right.
Because I get that. When I had to do the Papi's line, I had a moment. I definitely, like, I talked to a lot of men, a lot of fathers. I wanted to talk to fathers who were still in the home with their children. And I, talking like, what is it that would make you like work so much? Or why were you always out? Like, I did a lot of questions
Right.
before I started to write it. But it was definitely a moment where I'll never forget. I was writing Papi stuff and I was like, oh, it was great, right? I was having like them flowing. And it was a moment when he turns around and he looks at the door. And I remember I was like, oh my God, there's a poem here.
Mm.
And I remember closing the laptop and walking away. And my
Wow.
boyfriend was like, are you done? I was like, no. And he's like, what happened? I was like, I'm not writing that poem.
Mm.
Right? Because
Wow.
I knew it was going to hurt,
Wow.
and it took me about 2 weeks to finally sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write it. Because it was a healing moment for me. I
Mm.
had to write the words that I never heard my father say.
Wow. Wow. That is so powerful. It's crazy because I'm getting chills because now I can't wait until like Friday to see the full production. Like I'm just at first I'm so hyped. I'm so proud of you. Like,
Thank you.
like our circle of women, we're badass. Like
Yo, dope
badass.
women. Oh my God, I would go anywhere with y'all any day.
Like
Any
I
day.
sometimes I'm like, yo, I can't believe I know these women, like really know them, and I've hung out with them. Like,
Yeah.
it's like it's
Well,
that.
look at you, right? Like, look at you. I remember you in like writing circles.
I was so quiet. It's so funny to see how I've kind of broken out because
No, I love it.
I was so unsure of myself as a writer, like when I first started and started sharing my work. But something happens when you surround yourself with women like you, with women like Maria, with the women that are in our circle. We are
Yes,
powerful and we lift each other up.
sisterhood is everything to me.
It is.
Everything.
And you absolutely
This
live by
world
that.
cannot move without it. Absolutely, this world does not move, not forward nor backwards without sisterhood.
So
Period. And
I'm
I
gonna,
don't care if I haven't spoken to you in 9 months. I will
right.
call and say, "Hey, we
Yeah.
have an opportunity." You know?
It's so true. Now, when you were casting for the play,
Mm-hmm.
because you did like this is a new cast, it wasn't the same cast from the first run, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, what qualities were you looking for in these actors that would bring your characters to life in the way that you had written them? Because they were all phenomenal. Like the cast
Oh,
is amazing.
yeah. No, the cast is. I can't. I've been like literally since last night just thanking God every moment because
Hmm.
they have created these characters. Like I wrote the characters, but they have created these characters amongst themselves. I think that when we were doing the casting, the biggest thing for me was you have to be able to access your vulnerability.
Mm.
You can't come into this play as an actor and think you're going to just act your way through
Right.
because it just touches on so many things. Our first month of rehearsals are literally like breakdown after breakdown because this, and I hate to say it like this because I feel like it makes the play sound so heavy and it's not, but I think that we go through so much of our lives without confronting things,
Mm-hmm.
or trying to forget and try to act like we're normal
Right.
about stuff, right? But then or not normal, but like okay. Right. And when you have it in front of you in black and white, and you see yourself in black and white, you can't run from that.
Right.
You know, so I needed a cast that was willing to be vulnerable with themselves and each other. You know, so I'm grateful because what we've managed to do is really create a safe space for them to like share. That's why they're so phenomenal. They're so phenomenal because they're family for real behind the scenes.
Right. Right.
You know, because they've grown so much and they've learned so much and they push each other and they hug each other, and it's like, it's so beautiful to watch. And yeah, I think for any actor, really, like if you really want to be great, you have to be willing to access that vulnerability, and you can't care about what it looks like. You have to be willing to dig deep and find those pieces of you, especially like the ugly parts we don't really want to see, you know, show. So that's really my prerequisite. I mean, you know, of course I wanted Latinos because it's a Latino play,
right.
And all of that. But really it's the vulnerability. I needed them to go deep because I know what was possible. I saw it.
Right. And
before, you know.
I would say that they truly transformed into the characters that they are playing. They were like, it wasn't enough for me yesterday. Like, I'm really excited to see the full production.
I can't wait to like hear what people have to say, and you know, and people always walk away so joyful, right?
Right.
Which I think is also amazing, you know, given all the themes in this play. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for my cast because they get to like really shine, and man, and for all the healing that we get to bring to those people that sit in the audience.
Yeah, I think that they're probably, for me anyway, just seeing the little snippet that I saw, I really, it represented how important it is for us to break those toxic cycles, you know, that we carry along with us, you know, from generation to generation. And I don't know, I think that you have a hit here with this. What is your vision?
Oh, thank you.
You know, like, where do you see this play, you know, going? Like, your ideal vision would be what for In Defense of Glitters and Rainbow?
Broadway.
Yes, absolutely. Good.
Broadway. I want to sell $250 tickets.
Good.
Well, I want to sell $250 tickets for people to see Latinos being Latinos.
And so
absolutely.
I was very intentional in asking this question because there's no doubt in my mind you're going to get to Broadway. And when you get there, I want to play this back for you and say, remember when we said this? And then it's like, it's always going to be so that moment for you. And I can't wait for that to happen for you. So you can purchase tickets on their website, indefenseofglitterandrainbows.com. The show is up for a limited time only for 3 days, Mother's Day weekend. I encourage you to take your mommy, take your sister, your cousins, your father, the entire family. Go out and make this a family event. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. And you get a chance to meet True live and in the flesh. I mean, what better thing than that?
Yes. If you see a woman running around with purple hair, that's me. Just say hello.
Oh, well, honey, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm super proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like I made it. I finally made it on Nancy's show.
Girl, you better stop, please. Wait, when I'm real famous and I have like the full production going, that's when we're going to have you on the couch. It's going to be real fabulous.
No, girl, listen. First of all, I'm clear these are going to be the lost tapes. I fully expect to see you on TV within the next 5 years. And they're going to be like, yo, she's been doing this for years. And they're going to pull this up. And they're going to be like, do you know that Nancy and True knew each other?
Yeah, yes.
Like, it's going to be great. I can't wait.
Me either, baby. And I will see you next week, my love.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much again.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.